And now, marine weather around Alaska.
And to start marine weather off here, we'll look at the forecast for tonight, or for tomorrow, Thursday. Next, pretty good storm moving into the Aleutians here with gale force winds and some pretty good rainfall coming in. And otherwise, we've got a weakening front moving through the interior. So wet conditions now over the central and western part of the state, all the way up to the Arctic coast. Stays dry over the southeast coast. And for Friday, the storm pulls northeastward here, bringing an increase in the wind and rain to the southwest coast during the afternoon with wet, windy conditions, Alaska Peninsula, and into the Bering Sea now, all the way down in toward the Aleutians. And for the coastal water forecast here for the southeast coast, for tomorrow, still looking at light winds out of the south on the south coast there at 10 knots, and variable at 10 for the north coast. Inside channels, variable winds, light 5 to 10 knots. And for the day Friday, west winds 10 knots on the central and south coast with west to north winds at 10 knots for the north coast. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait, all the inner channels still looking at light and variable wind conditions through Friday. And for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, light variable winds in store for those areas as well tomorrow at 10 knots. Seas 2 feet in the Sound, 3 to 4 feet out along the coast. Cook Inlet, south to southwesterlies at 20 knots with 4-foot seas, south 20 knots for Kamishak Bay. The Barren Islands, south at 15 knots, seas 4 feet. And for Friday, for Cook Inlet, southwest winds 15 knots, southwest at 20 for Kamishak Bay. West at 15 for the western North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound and the eastern North Gulf Coast, winds stay light and variable at 10 knots. Kodiak Island, west-southwest winds 15 to 20 knots for Thursday. Small craft advisories in Bristol Bay, west winds there at 25 knots, with those seas up to 8 feet. And the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, west winds 15 to 20 knots with seas 7 to 8 feet. And the Pacific side, northwest 15 to 20 knots with seas 4 to 5 feet. And then for Friday, small craft advisories for the Alaska Peninsula, south to southeast winds 25 to 30 knots with seas as high as 12 feet. Bristol Bay, southeast at 20, seas 3 feet. Kodiak Island, south to southwest at 20 knots with 4 to 5 foot seas. And for the eastern Aleutians, south to southeast winds at 15 to 30 knots with the strongest winds across Unimak Island, Nikolsky. Good gales there, Adak and Atka, southeast increasing to 40 knots and east-southeast 40 knots from Adak westward to Shemya. And then for Friday, west-northwest gales there for the western Aleutians at 35 knots. Adak and Atka looking at southwesterlies at 35 knots. And for the eastern Aleutians, south to southwest winds 30 to 35 knots. For the southwest coast tomorrow, for the Yukon Delta coast specifically, west winds 20 knots. Same thing for St. Lawrence Island. Kuskokwim Delta coastline, small craft advisories, winds out of the west at 25. Light variable winds for the Pribilofs and 15 knot westerlies for St. Matthew Island. Norton Sound, northwest at 20 knots, seas 4 feet. And then for Friday, Norton Sound, light south wind at 10 and southeast at 10 for St. Lawrence Island. South winds 15 knots for the Yukon Delta coast with 3-foot seas, but much windier here south of Nunivak Island. South winds 30 knots, seas 7 feet. Gale warnings for the Pribilof Islands. Southeast winds 35 knots, seas 12 feet, and gales for St. Matthew Island northeast at 35 with 13-foot seas. Up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, southeast wind at 10 knots, seas 2 feet. For the central and west side, northwest at 15 with 3-foot seas. And the Chukchi Sea, north winds 20 knots, seas 4 feet. And then they'll swing around to the south and southeast for the Chukchi Sea, anywhere from 10 to 25 knots. Strongest there from Point Hope to Cape Lisburne. And western Arctic coast south at 20, central coast south at 15. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, chilly north winds 10 to 15 knots with 3-foot seas.